Do you know of anyone with COVID-19? Whether you do or don't, do not be the next victim. I am Ricardo Navarro, and I will be informing you today on the dangers of COVID-19. Do you ever wonder why COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread so quickly throughout the world? Today as a humanity, we are dealing with this pandemic that can only be beat as a team working together. In order to work as a team due to the quick spread, it is crucial that we are immediately informed on what COVID-19 truly is, the symptoms, and prevention methods that we need to take. I am a current student athlete at Ottawa University and soccer club head coach at Calcio Soccer Club. It is COVID-19 what has forced the canceling of my final soccer season, my coaching season, and my graduation. First, I will give an overview of what COVID-19 is. Second, I will talk about the symptoms. That will be followed by discussing the prevention methods you should understand about COVID-19. Now let's look over the overview of COVID-19. According to World Health, coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, better known as CDC, the virus that causes COVID-19 is thought to be spread mainly from person to person through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Even though this virus is highly contagious, it cannot be spread through the air since it is not an airborne transmitted disease. For the ones that live in Arizona like myself or in desert areas, that means that through the dirt when we go out or the air that may come up, the disease cannot be transmitted through that. Now that you are informed of what COVID-19 precisely is, let's discuss the symptoms. There are 3 common symptoms. Number 1, fever. Number 2, tiredness. And number 3, dry cough. There are also 4 other symptoms that are not as common, but they're symptoms that have appeared in coronavirus cases. Number 1, shortness of breath. Number 2, aches and pains. And the third one is a sore throat. The fourth one is the least common one, but there have been cases of these symptoms, which are reports of diarrhea, nausea, and a runny nose. Even though all the symptoms may not be present, the 4 important symptoms to keep an eye on are fever, tiredness, dry cough, and shortness of breath. Even though shortness of breath is not a common symptom, shortness of breath makes the list because no matter the cause of shortness of breath, that is a symptom that every person should get checked out because it could lead directly to the death if you cannot breathe. Now that we know the overview and the symptoms, we will go over what you need to know and understand about the prevention process. There are 6 different methods of prevention. The first one would be to wash your hands on a regular basis. That would be by always washing your hands after you use the restroom. If you leave the house and go inside, or if you touch anything dirty, wash your hands. If you do have to go out and get your essentials, which could be groceries, toilet paper, stuff like that, or even if you're an essential worker, you may have to leave the house. So what could help you keeping your hands really clean would be carrying a bottle of hand sanitizer at all times, which would keep your hands clean, of course. Number 2 will be to practice social distancing. That could be just staying at home if you're not an essential worker. But if you are an essential worker or you have to go get your essentials, try to stay 6 feet away from the nearest person. That is what social distancing is. Number 3 will be to avoid touching your face. Of course, we have our dirty hands, and the disease is transmitted through our mouth and nose. So we want to keep our dirty hands as far away possible from our face to keep us from being of getting the virus. Number 4 will be to stay home if you feel unwell. The reason for that is that it can take up to 7 days for the symptoms to appear. And you may have the coronavirus without you knowing it because no symptoms have appeared. So if you feel unwell, stay home because that will truly stop the prevention or the spread of coronavirus because you could have it without even knowing. Number 5 will be quarantine, which I will tell you more in depth in just a moment. And number 6 will be isolation. Isolation is when a victim has already been positively tested for the virus, so they have the virus. That could be that they're isolated at home or at a hospital. This method is to keep the victim from spreading the disease to any other people, which could be family or just workers or people that he may come in contact with. So now let's discuss what quarantine truly means. Quarantine is a method used by governments to stop the spread of contagious diseases. According to Malinowski, quarantine are for people or groups who don't have symptoms but were exposed to sickness. A quarantine keeps them away from others so they don't unknowingly infect anyone. As I said, it could take 7 days for a symptom to appear. That is why we're going through the quarantine process. Quarantine is used throughout outbreaks, epidemics, and pandemics. As we know, we're going through this pandemic. The difference between isolation and quarantine is that in isolation, the person is already sick, while in quarantine, it is a prevention method of someone who may have the disease. Ultimately, they both serve the same purpose to prevent the spread. Now that we have gone over all the main points, let's wrap it up. Today we discussed the overview, the symptoms, and prevention methods needed to understand COVID-19. Now that you know all about COVID-19, you can start to protect your loved ones and yourself from being the next victim to this disease. Thank you for listening and stay safe. Remember to always wash your hands.